Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
What separates world-class customer service companies from everyone else? One significant factor is having someone dedicated to designing and managing the customer's experience. The Customer Experience Executive Academy trains leaders to excel at this. Find out how to enroll now. Contact Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com for details.
Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I'm Denise Thompson, and I'm here with my co-host, John DiJulius. Today, we're diving into a framework that separates good companies from iconic brands. To create customer evangelists, the kind of loyal fans who come back, refer others, and defend your brand, you must excel in 6 key areas of the customer experience: physical, atmosphere, functional, technical, operational, and hospitality. John, you've spent decades studying world-class organizations and training leaders to elevate every touch point. In this episode, I'd like you to break down each of those components, give us some real-world stories and practical steps for auditing and improving the customer's experience. So whether you run a small team or a global brand, these 6 categories are going to be your roadmap to building loyalty that price can't touch. Today's episode is brought to you by the Customer Experience Executive Academy. This is a part-time year-long academy likened to a masterclass in developing leaders to design and manage the customer's experience. For information on how you can enroll, visit cxea.org. That's cxea.org, or schedule a call at tdg.click/Claudia. John, how you doing?
Hello. Great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Hey, you've said before, to create customer evangelists, companies must operate at a high level in 6 areas of business. Why isn't it enough to just focus really hard on 1 or 2 areas?
Well, because when we're talking about the customer's actual experience, there's so many things from, where you're located, if you're brick and mortar. You think about different things that you can complain about or why you choose to do business with it is I don't go to that place because the parking, there's no parking, or, we've had one of our salons, you couldn't turn left to get into the street. You couldn't turn left or left to get out. So it was just so frustrating, besides, parking or where you place it. So there's literally 6 things that encompass a total customer experience when you're doing business with someone.
And when you look across industries, which of the 6 components do you see leaders consistently undervaluing? And what does it cost them in terms of brand loyalty?
Yeah, it's hard. They're all, very important, as I think you'll see. But I think the 6th one, and it's not 6th because of the ranking, importance, but the hospitality side is how you make someone feel. So when you go into other businesses, I think, banking or legal or professional services or manufacturing, I don't think people think that they're in the hospitality business, but that's a component of how I make you feel. And I think that's the least, trained, new employee, doesn't get trained. Now, a lot of these other things, an employee, employees don't get to decide the building, which is physicals first, right? Brick and mortar building, freeway access, parking, signage, and that's not physical is not something you could change today. right? I mean, moving or knocking walls down or anything like that. That's obviously from a planning. That's not in the employees' hands, leadership hands, CEOs' hands, CFOs' hands. But a lot of other things are controlled by the employee.
So you just talked about the physical experience. So physical excellence often gets overlooked until it's a problem, whether it's paint chipping on the walls or just things that we overlook because we see them every day when we're working in that environment. What are some subtle physical details companies miss that send the wrong message to customers?
Yeah, like you just said, allowing your place to decay. Uh, in my own salons, when I visit them, mostly for haircuts now, I'll walk in and, I don't know why I'm light sensitive, but I can tell immediately when a light is out, and I look up and it's like, why is it darker in this spot? That drives me crazy. So, that's where, something is not working or chipped or all the little things that can just send a message of poor attention to detail. The other thing about physical now, I don't want people to think that this is only for brick and mortar. Where you're located, B2B, where Amazon has its uh, storage places centrally located to make sure it could get to any customer same day or within 24 hours or whatever it is. If customers come to you from a B2B, or you got to go to customers, it's where it's located and things like that.
So, and then when we go beyond physical and we look at atmosphere, you've said everything speaks. So, can you share a story of a company that mastered atmosphere so well that it transformed the customer's emotional connection to the brand?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think of is Chick-fil-A. When you go there, they from how they orchestrate their drive-throughs, and they'll have two people out there and running two lines with an iPad, and that's part functional and part atmosphere. But when you walk in, they pump the smell in to as soon as you open the door, and there's like that double door, you start smelling, and all of a sudden you're hungrier than you realized, and what the surroundings look like. Negative cues, they remove negative cues, and negative cues could be signage, it could be stupid signage, and can't use the bathroom unless you paid for something or if you bounce a check. But there's also other negative cues that Starbucks works really hard at reversing. Starbucks years ago, their new machines were so tall that you couldn't see the barista. That's a horrible experience that they had to reverse, an expensive investment they had to reverse. We talk about negative cues a lot of what you're doing physically, what you're wearing, but it's also going into the bathroom and there's no toilet paper, or the garbage is overflowing, like just being all over that. Too much clutter at the front desk, signage. And the signage might be not negative cues, but it might be, 10 different promotions that they're trying to tell, hey, sign up for our membership rewards thing, and you can get 2 for 1 on this and this and this. And listen, if you have more than 3 signs, probably more than 2 signs, you have no signs. It's just billboards. I'm not reading any of them.
I love that what you brought up in the beginning about the smell of Chick-fil-A. I associate even hotels, different brands with a smell, and there's that connection to it.
Yeah. And Apple is so good at this, and the
Oh,
the
clean.
cleanliness, and everything's just sharp, and the way they design. I had to run to Lululemon yesterday, and Apple's next to it, and I wanted to go into Apple so bad. I didn't need anything, but I made a good decision not to, because it's just a toy store for me. But it's the way they merchandise.
There's a new
And
iPhone, isn't there?
is it out? I probably should have done,
I don't know. I
but
shouldn't have
but
said it.
yeah, but like Nordstrom's compared to Macy's, Dillard's, all those things. Macy's and Dillard's, in my experience, you can't even get things off the rack because there's so many products shoved in there. And you can't walk between the racks because they're so close to one another. And then you go to a Nordstrom's and they have probably 1/20th of the product. And it seems like there's only a few on the, but their merchandise. You can see them. You can, you, me, and someone else can walk next to each other in between the racks. It's just laid out, and it's so easy and attractive.
Does merchandising fall under atmosphere or functional, or where would you put that?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because I don't think you have to be high end like Nordstrom even. I mean, if you walk into Target, I think does a great job of
Yeah.
merchandising. You want to buy things because
Yeah.
of the way they're displayed.
Yeah, I would lean towards atmosphere. Atmosphere is the 5, 6 I don't know how many senses there are. How many senses are there? Smell, taste, all that signage, and your merchandising and all that and the look and the feel. And so then when you go to B2B, that's might be over the phone or on your website. Same stuff could happen when you go to a website, and it's so noisy and crazy and like, I've left websites just because it's overwhelming versus, you go back to Apple, go to Apple's website. It's simple, and it's clean and it's easy to navigate. And again, you probably want something that's not why you went there, but now you're looking at the the headphones or whatever it may be.
The next component I want to talk about, functional, is all about that, the ease of doing business. Where do most companies unintentionally make things harder than they need to be?
So I just heard this week. Someone was complaining that they're trying to get one of their children into a specialist because they need a specialist. We'll just leave it at that. And these specialists are only available like 9 to 3. Well, it's when kids go to school. Like, how inconvenient is that for you to take your kid out of school? And might be one of the reasons why they need a specialist to get them in with a specialist. So it's the hours of operation. It's how easy are you to do business. It's how well are you staffed? It's policies and procedures and payment options and all those different things. It's just how basically it's how easy are you to do business, and do you make it harder or easier for people to work with you?
And the next one, technical. Customers expect competence as a baseline. How can technical excellence be a differentiator rather than just a requirement?
Well, the first thing that's obviously huge now is all the technology, and are you on the cutting edge? And self-serve kiosks. I don't need to call and wait on hold. You go to Apple, and I can, I'm having something wrong with my computer, and literally, I believe it's 90 seconds. I can book an appointment with a genius if you go to the Apple website. I mean, that's awesome. Now I need to speak to someone when I bring it in and transfer my pain, and you don't understand what I do, and I need my computer and blah, blah, blah. But the technical, that's the great. So it's your software, it's your ability, speed of technology. You're sitting, waiting, state of the art, going to their website, but it's also the level of expertise of your employees. They're technical, and that's huge. I mean, that is so huge. And when you're dealing with someone that doesn't really know and is kind of, fumbling, can't answer certain things, or my God, I got the smartest person I've ever met around this topic or thing. So all those things, fall under the technical side.
All right, and now let's talk about details that happen behind the scenes, operational. So cleanliness, prep, systems. How do you help leaders see these invisible details through the eyes of the customer?
Yeah, and operational, and a lot of the stuff is being brilliant at the basics. I actually think this is the one that of the six that they probably spend the most time on, and for good reason. You got to be brilliant at the basics, and it's the cleanliness, the dress code, the tasks, the inventory, the processes, and that's very, very important. The functions of the job, duties. The problem with operational is the only time it's memorable is when they failed. So if you call up to make a doctor's appointment for next Thursday at 1 p.m. and you walk in at 5 minutes to 1 and check in, and they have you down for your 1 o'clock, you're not like, oh my God, you're not calling Ken and saying they had me, right? That's operational. The only time that's memorable is if you walked in at 12:55 and they say you're an hour late, or your appointment was yesterday, or you're at the wrong location. We booked you, downtown, east side, west side. And so that's with a lot of things. It's being brilliant at the basics. But most companies, focus exclusively on those. And you got to be brilliant at the basics. But you need the other things. That by itself, your competitors are doing very well. And so that by itself, you're not a differentiating. You don't have a signature experience.
When we talk about operational, it makes me think there are certain titles, certain positions that really lead some of these components, but maybe not all of them. So it's one of those things that companies have to delegate, probably, who is accountable for this component.
Do you have an example?
Well, I mean, operations comes to mind because you have somebody, generally speaking, that's in charge of your operations, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you may not have somebody, or you probably have somebody who's in IT, but atmosphere, who takes care of the atmosphere, who's looking at physical, who's looking, big one, hospitality. You started off with that one saying most companies are weakest in hospitality.
Yeah. So if you think about all the others so far, right? So we've, dove a little deeper on physical, atmosphere, functional, technical, and operational. None of those talk about how you made me feel, right? There was parking. I could get in and out of your, I don't know, strip center. The atmosphere, was attractive. You're easy to do business with. Your employees are smart. The inventory's there. That's all fine. And that's all really important. But none of that talked about if your employees are nice, you know, if they like what they do and they make it obvious, they build a relationship. And that's where the hospitality comes in, the customer engagement, how you make them feel, that you build a rapport, that you have compassion and empathy, that you have the ability, the want, and the permission to make a brilliant comeback if we drop the ball, right? That's all in the soft skill and the experiential and the above and beyond opportunities.
So that one, as you mentioned, a lot of people are weak in, a lot of organizations. So why do companies struggle to train for hospitality? And what's one step to start closing that gap?
So hospitality is behavior, and the rest are just task oriented. When you come in, make sure you come in 30 minutes before we open, turn all the lights on, put music on, get the cash register up to speed. Those are tasks. Important, but that, behavior is the hardest. And, it goes back to the service aptitude. Most people don't have the service aptitude that a good company expects and requires. So, but good companies know that, and they'll interview it, hoping that there's certain soft skills that they look for, but they also know that a lot of those soft skills can be trained and will be trained in their new employee. But I always ask, I love asking this question. And I'm using my son Bo, in all my presentations, because he's 23, right? So I say, if you hire Bo, who's a senior at John Carroll, to be in a customer-facing position, on the phones, checking people in, checking people out, whatever your business model is, how much training would you give him before you allowed him to start working with your customers? And some people say 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. All right, great. That's not the answer I'm really looking for. Of the 4,400 or 4,000 hours you're going to put Bo in, how much is technical, operational processes, how to ring someone up, how to book, how to get their insurance, how to, take multiple payments, all those things, schedule it correctly, fulfill the order, blah, blah, blah. And how much is a soft skill, the service aptitude skill, that he greets the person the way you want that person to be greeted. He uses their name 2 or more times. He introduces himself. He says, "Is there anything else I can do for you today, Miss Thompson?" Before the interaction's done. He has compassion and empathy and understands what you might be dealing with, as a customer, and why you need both his presence, that he's making you feel seen and heard, and his expertise, that if he doesn't give you the right product or recommendation or booking with the right person, the impact that could have on what you're trying to accomplish in your job or in your life. And most people, and I hope all our people listening and watching, do this math. Most people, whatever it is, 40 hours, 400 hours, 4,000 hours, it's way over 90% operational processes. And the less than 5% soft skill is just like, hey, Bo, our mantra here is we're customer obsessed. We go above and beyond. Go do that. And, if you tell 500 people that, any of those, you're going to get 500 personal interpretations. World-class customer service companies remove personal interpretation. They define what that looks like. And so the answer or solution is not, it needs to be 50-50. If you're training them on 400 hours, it doesn't have to be 200 on soft skill, 200 on technical operational. And that obviously industry specific, that can get a lot more, that can change. But there has to be a strong representation of soft skill training, that they have to be certified. The best companies certify them, just like you would never allow someone to apply to cook at your restaurant, chef, whatever it is. And, do you know how to cook this? Yeah. Okay. You wouldn't do that. You'd say, all right, this is how we prepare our steaks or fish or hamburgers or fries, and you'd make them do it and you'd test them out. Great companies test their employees out on the soft skills, the non-negotiable reoccurring things, and all the things we just talked about.
Important stuff.
Did I answer your question? I don't even know what your question was.
Yeah. Well, how do you close the gap when you're weak in hospitality?
Yeah. It's making sure that you have a representation. So do the math. You're going to hire someone. When you hire someone, how much training do you give them? And then of that training, how much is soft skill versus hard technical? And I think you're going to be disappointed in how heavy the technical operational is and how little. And so just raise that. Crawl, walk, and run, raise it. Make them read a book. Make them, know your non-negotiables. Have your nevers and always. Ideally, if you're listening and you have been listening, you have a customer experience action statement. Make sure that's clear. and they know what that means, and the pillars, and your signature experience of what should happen at each touch point.
And if you don't have those things, it's a good time to join the Experience Revolution membership. And you can go to our archive where creating your signature experience is in there. Service Vision is in there, I believe. If not, it's coming up. I believe Service Vision is in there, though. And you actually workshop.
Customer experience action statement.
Thank
It's
you.
no longer Service Vision, but if it's not, shame on us. Let's look at the, if it's not coming up, do they get access if we did it already?
Yes, they do. Yes, they
All
do.
right.
With your membership, you get access to all past workshops, and you receive a year's worth of live stream workshops live with Dave and John.
All right. So I'm looking up December 1st. Our next live stream workshop is creating an onboarding experience. So this is, from the moment you offer and they accept the job, for the first 90 days, and how important that is. Q1 of next year, March 9th, is breaking down silos, cross-department. Yeah, cross-department collaboration, clarify handoffs, and promote empathy and teamwork. June 2026 is a day in the life of a customer. Oh, there you go. September 2026 is creating a customer experience action statement. What each employee should be intentionally doing every time they interact with another human being, whether it's a customer, coworker, stranger, vendor. And then the fourth quarter of 2026, December, is building and developing future leaders.
Great topics. Great topics. So register now at thedijuliusgroup.com/membership. You can find that link in the show notes as well. John, I want to go back to the components here. So there is a lot of overlap within these 6 categories. Can you give an example where a failure in one area hurt the others, or where harmony across all 6 created a true wow experience?
Going back to, so, a lot of overlap is in functional, operational, and technical. Atmosphere and physical, there's more of what I always say, how to distinguish if it's physical or atmosphere is, if it could be fixed all of today, it's probably more of an atmosphere. Physical is the building, the parking lot, the access, all those things, that isn't something you can, get someone out here and, fix today. But all right, so you're saying the overlap, and ask me again. I'm sorry.
So because they overlap, do you have any examples of where maybe you're bad in one and it hurt the others, or where someone has harmony across all 6 and it creates a true wow experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you look at the best retailers, they really master these. Whether it's Apple, the Starbucks, in back in the day, Lululemon, all these great retailers are going to make sure they're in the best shopping centers that have abundance of parking. When you walk in, restaurants, great restaurants are good at this. They're easy to do business with. They make sure their employees are, brilliant technically, and that they have the equipment to do their job. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating. That's why, we had a conversation a couple weeks ago about, I was afraid some of our consultants and employees needed new laptops. And, I never want, I don't know, budgets or whatever to impact that, because, that's their tool. And when you have to wait or reboot, it'd be like a plumber not having, the latest and greatest to get the job done. You have to, provide. There's nothing more frustrating than not having the equipment tools to do your job, and then have someone looking over you, or, trying to ring someone out and it's, the computer's slow or the software sucks and it's outdated, um, you feel stupid, and the customer thinks it's you. And, that happens, all day, every day. You don't want to work there. Like, your boss is cheap, and the company's cheap. Um, but, in the operational, but they're nice. And that's the surprising thing. And that's the frosty on the cake, that these people are nice and they know, how to help you and guide you, and they educate versus sell, and, those key little things.
I know recently you had a significant experience at Nemacolin, and you talked about how great their service is right now, and they're doing everything right. How would you rate them across the 6 components?
5 or 6 years ago, well, it was my favorite place. Their physical atmosphere was behind. I mean, it's such a massive place, but you can tell that as nice as it is, they were getting a little outdated. I remember speaking there one time, in the room I was speaking with, had the ceiling stained from leaks, and it's just stuff that you didn't want. They have literally put in $500 million into the place in the last couple years. And so I've gone, and they're nailing it everywhere. Like, it's beautiful. It's mind boggling. Their customer experience, their young kids, like, they're all in college that are working, bartenders, waitress, whatever thing you go to is just, they're so nice. And if they don't know, they tell you, I just started, but I'll find out, which I don't know about you, but, like, makes me want to help them even more. And, like, no, but I've always thought a good idea is, if you have a name tag, Denise, it should say in training. And some people think that's like oversharing. I don't, because, like, I know what it's like. And I remember how that sucked. And so, like, I'll have so much more pay. Oh, don't worry. I think it's that button here that you're supposed to press. Like, but if it doesn't say in training, and you're clueless to me, I just think I got the dumbest employee, that works here. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, how do you not know how to, process this order? So I love, because I think most people are understanding and have empathy for new employees, and they want to help them be successful. Right now on the 6th, Nemacolin is crushing it. In every category. Physical is just mind blowing. Everything. I don't think there's a weakness right now. At least my most recent experience. In the past, there's been, there's the weaknesses in all of them, but they've really upped their game.
How do you recommend companies audit themselves across the 6 categories?
So if we can put there's a blog, I don't know if you have it, if we can, that really breaks down the, not only description, but, what to look for, like technical, employee level of experience, speed of your technology, computer, state of art of technology, ability to use your website, equipment, phone system, software, so each of the 6 categories have lists. And, I think you just do an audit, and, someone should own each of these. And, if you're big enough, you probably have someone that owns each of these. And, just first, what's glaring, what is, needs attention. This is a great checklist audit report card to see where you're at, and constantly, just don't do it one time, right? Constantly, this is what your location manager should be auditing. And the CEO should never walk into a location and, why are there 6 lights out? Why is the water cooler broken? Right? I mean, we should be on top of it. Now, it's fine. I sent you an email, they're coming out tomorrow. That's fine but no leader should be surprised. They should know what they're walking into.
So that we'll put that in the show notes, link to that blog. We can make that a download for people. So you can look for a link for that to download the 6 components of the experience and your own little checklist to go through and audit your company. Um, if there are listeners, leaders, let me start that over. If a leader is listening today and they could only improve one of these 6 areas right now, which would give them the quickest lift in customer loyalty?
Well, it's hard. Assuming they're good at everything, that's easier. But I mean, if they have something glaring, right? Like that's bad, that's exposed. They have to sew that up. You can't have coming in and your building is, old carpeting and old desks and old furniture and technology isn't working. I mean, first you have to make sure you don't have any real weaknesses in any area. But assuming that you're good, assuming that you feel good about most of your areas, I would do a hospitality audit and see what new employees mandatory what they're getting trained on, and not only just getting trained on the soft skills, how to build a relationship, how to show compassion and empathy, your non-negotiable standards, your nevers and all those things, but that they're being tested on it. And then existing employees, right? You just don't train someone one time. So that's where the micro learning. Have we talked about micro learning yet? We can do that for another podcast.
Yeah.
So that's really popular today. Micro learning is think TikTok, think YouTube Reels, less than a minute video that, all right, you've been here working here, 2 years, 5 years, 29 years. But each day or each week, you're getting just a little quick thing to remind you. And it's a quick video reminding you of the 5 E's, and then ideally, you have to answer what the 5 E's are or what Ford is. And so it's just a quick hit in an environment of like, you don't have to come in. It's sent out to everyone's phones, iPads, whatever, computers, whatever, however they work. And those are madly popular.
I think that's great, especially as employees come and go. Having something like that for ongoing training to keep everyone on the same page is really important, pertinent.
Yeah, and that's different. That's different than the initial training, right? That's going to be longer. That could be, days, hours, whatever. But this is just TOMA, top of mind awareness, making sure we're hitting you, weekly with something short, quick to, keep, the experience you're delivering in the forefront of your mind.
All right. And finally, what's one thing our listeners can do this week to move closer to creating customer evangelists?
It's probably the same answer, but it's getting your team members, asking them about their best experience. I love starting workshops with this, is asking what's a brand you can't live without. If I had the authority to say, you could never do business with a brand again, and you had to listen to me, what is one brand you would be nervous I would take away from you? And even going to front lines, they have brands. They may not be as the same brands as executives have, but there's a reason. And 9 times out of 10 it has nothing to do with price. But they're loyal to Dunkin' Donuts, or they're loyal to Amazon, or they're loyal to, Target, whatever it may be, or their local dry cleaner. Why? Why are you loyal? I'm sure you can get it cheaper somewhere else. That's not even near your house. Why do you drive 3 extra exits? And when they explain what those things are, oh, well, how can we be those things? How can you be those things to, how can we create the same thing? So you're getting them and they're buying and them seeing the connection to it.
Yeah. Thank you, John. And thanks,
you.
listeners, for joining us on this episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. As John explained, brand loyalty doesn't come from one magic tactic. It's the result of 6 interconnected components working in harmony. The physical environment, the atmosphere you create, functional ease, technical expertise, operational consistency, and most importantly, hospitality that makes customers feel valued. Here's your challenge for the week. Choose one of these 6 areas. Take a hard look at how your company is performing in it. Where are you delighting your customers? Where are you unintentionally driving them away? For more tools and strategies, don't forget to go to our show notes. For more tools and strategies, don't forget to go to our show notes. Download the free white paper on the 6 components at the DiJuliusGroup.com. You'll find the link for that in the show notes. And until next time, remember, customer service is not a department, it's your brand. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Denise. See you later, revolutionaries.
Need help getting brilliant at the basics? Contact Claudia at theDiJuliusGroup.com and find out how the team of consultants at the DiJulius Group can help you get there.